When a civilization ceases to recognize itself, it doesn't collapse with a sudden crash. There are no sirens, no official declarations. It transforms, slowly, almost imperceptibly. And then one day, he looks in the mirror and no longer recognizes himself. It is in this context that for years, a warning attributed to John Paul II has been circulating. Not a prophecy in the classical sense, but a dramatic reading of the future, a Europe destined to change its face, not through military conquest, but through internal exhaustion. A civilization is emptying, while another grows within its own borders. A transformation linked to the increasingly incisive presence of populations who identify with the crescent moon religion, bearers of a strong, unmistakable, and undeniable vision. According to this narrative, the issue isn't who arrives, the issue is who ceases to exist. Because a civilization that no longer generates children, that no longer transmits values, that no longer believes in what it once was, has already begun its decline. And into this void, something inevitably enters, not necessarily with the intention of conquest, but by simple historical dynamics. Those who are alive grow, those who are tired retreat. It's the unwritten law of civilizations. We're talking about a silent replacement, unproclaimed, unplanned, but visible in the numbers, in the neighborhoods, in the schools, in the cultural changes that advance without asking permission. Entire urban areas transform in the space of a few years. Traditions fade, Christian symbols disappear or are challenged. And in their place, new references, new habits, new unwritten rules. The Europe that for centuries has shaped the world today struggles to recognize itself in its own spaces. The issue of reciprocity, then, becomes inevitable. On the one hand, a continent that welcomes, that guarantees religious freedom, that allows everyone to practice their faith. On the other hand, vast areas of the world where being a Christian means living under pressure, if not under threat. Churches destroyed, communities marginalized, rights denied. This is not propaganda. It's documented. Yet this imbalance doesn't seem to generate a real reaction. On the contrary, it's often ignored, downplayed, or considered irrelevant in public debate. And as this asymmetry grows, so too do the incidents that directly affect Christian identity in Europe. Churches are vandalized, religious symbols are removed, traditional festivals are stripped of their original meaning. It's all happening quietly, but with a consistency that's starting to become worrying. These are not isolated events, but signs of a deeper transformation. It is in this context that Cardinal Müller intervenes. His words are neither nuanced nor diplomatic. They are direct and therefore destined to divide. The integration of millions of people linked to the crescent moon religion, he states, is unrealistically possible, not in the terms presented. Not without consequences. And these consequences, according to the Cardinal, will not only be cultural, but also social and political, to the point of imagining internal conflict. This is no small statement. Talking about possible civil wars in Europe is touching a raw nerve. But Müller doesn't stop there. He introduces an element that completely changes the perspective. Responsibility isn't just external, it's primarily internal. Europe, he says, has paved the way for its own change, and it has done so consciously. For decades, we have witnessed policies and cultural trends that have progressively dismantled the traditional family. Marriage has been downsized. Motherhood and fatherhood often presented as obstacles to personal fulfillment, and childbearing has been directly or indirectly discouraged. The result is there for all to see: an unprecedented demographic crisis, an aging, shrinking, and non-renewable population. Müller calls it a man-made catastrophe, not an inevitable fate, but the consequence of specific choices. And when a society stops generating, it also stops defending itself, because it has nothing left to pass on. It has no future. And in this void, every balance is shattered. The point, however, is even deeper. It's not just a question of numbers, it's a question of nature. According to the Cardinal, the desire to have children is ingrained in human beings. It's part of their makeup, their vocation. To deny it means opposing not only Christian tradition, but natural law itself. It is an anthropological fracture, a rupture that changes the way man perceives himself, life, and the meaning of existence. And as this rift widens, the state takes on an increasingly invasive role, no longer a simple guarantor of the common good, but an active player in redefining society. Laws, policies, and interventions that touch the heart of family, moral, and educational life. Müller speaks openly of states that behave like gods, who claim to establish what is right and what is wrong, what is natural and what is not, no longer at the service of man, but above man. At this point, the lines overlap. On one hand, the vision attributed to John Paul II, a Europe that is emptying itself, that is losing its soul, that is opening the door to an irreversible transformation also through the expansion of the crescent religion. On the other hand, Müller's words describe a process already underway, with concrete, visible dynamics that are difficult to ignore. The result is a disturbing picture, not because it necessarily foretells an inevitable outcome, but because it points to a direction. And that direction seems to lead to growing tension. When strong identities meet in a weakened space, conflict isn't a remote possibility, it's a plausible consequence, not immediate perhaps, but progressive. The real issue, then, isn't who's right or wrong. The point is to understand what's happening, whether Europe is truly undergoing a phase of irreversible transformation, whether the loss of Christian roots is merely a cultural evolution or the beginning of something deeper, whether the void left by a weary civilization will inevitably be filled by those who still possess a strong identity. Because history leaves no empty spaces, it always fills them, and it does so according to logics that don't always coincide with human intentions. What do you think? If you liked the video, comment Amen. God bless you.